Welcome to the Draft Geeks podcast, guys. We just got done with the 2025 NFL Draft first round. We're coming at you with live reactions. And then we just thought of it. We're a little bit of sickos. It's way late where both of us are. I'm sure most of you guys got done watching the draft late too. We're going to do a second round mock draft because there's a lot of really good talent still on the board. So hope you guys are ready because the Draft Geeks podcast starts right now.
Welcome into another episode of the Draft Geeks podcast. I'm Max Shostak over at the Draft Geek, here with Jace Campbell over at Pat's Drive. Fitting last name for Jace Campbell on the Pat's Drive after Will Campbell was the 4th overall pick for Jace's squad. Man, we just got done watching the first round of what was such an eventful, perfect NFL draft. We're going to recap every single pick for you guys and run through a second round mock draft. And man, this is going to be awesome. We'll run through it, but I got to ask, we'll start off with our teams just a little bit because we're homers. We'll preview it. Jace, how are you doing? And I know you're pumped.
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. It was the biggest need for the Patriots. I have Will Campbell as my best offensive lineman, maybe not my best tackle because some of the length concerns, but man, the interview, you're going to tell he's a fan favorite. He's going to work his ass off. He's going to be super tough. He's going to play physical like we saw in film, finish guys. And man, he said, I'm going to die. He said, I'm going to do whatever I can and die or something to protect you guys. Like he's going to put it on the line. He's going to be a fan favorite. There's the concerns about putting him at tackle, but it doesn't matter if he was left guard or left tackle. That's the Patriots' biggest need, in my opinion. Yeah. And they addressed it with a guy who I mocked to them in my way too early 2025 mock when I did it, almost a year ago today. I did. I forget what pick it was. It definitely wasn't pick 4 because I was a little more optimistic, but it's what I mocked to them. And, I knew it was an issue then, and it still is an issue now. They didn't address it in free agency. I thought maybe they could make a move for Colton Miller. But they didn't do that. And so you take Will Campbell, who's been really good for 3 years as a starter at LSU, and you try to make him your franchise left tackle.
All right, man, let's get right into it. Pick 1. We're just going to fire it off, guys. Pick 1, we don't got to spend too much time on this. The Vikings. The Titans got their quarterback. It's Cam Ward, as chalk as it was expected to go.
Yeah, it's we mocked this a bunch of times. I mean, there's a couple times we did a couple little things, but I think that they've known for a while it was going to be Cam Ward. The true shocker comes when the Jacksonville Jaguars move up to pick 2, and the trade compensation. So they got Jacksonville got pick 2, pick 104, and pick 200, and the Browns got pick 5, pick 36, pick 126, and a 2026 first round pick. All that to move up and take Travis Hunter.
I mean, the kitchen sink in Cleveland. I think they could have the 1st and 2nd overall picks next year. I mean, neither of them would like that to happen, but listen, that's on the table. These aren't great franchises. The Jags went all the way up. They had to help Trevor Lawrence, and they did that by getting the best wide receiver in this draft class, and they also land the best corner in this draft class in the same player. Liam Cohen and the new regime probably have a way figured out to use this guy. They have to be excited about him in this building. And man, it's a bold move to start this regime, but listen, it's better than just sitting back and letting the board fall to you. They go up and get Travis Hunter. Huge move.
Yeah, it was, it's going to be fun to watch him and Brian Thomas Jr. It's going to be really fun. And they've already said that they plan to play him a little more on offense. He'll play both ways, but yeah, you go up and get him. We'll talk about this in a minute, but man, could you imagine Cleveland had the opportunity to take him and potentially get Shedeur Sanders at pick 33, which we'll talk about here when we get into the second round mock draft. But man, that was a crazy trade to start it off. And then Abdul Carter goes to the Giants. Some were like, hey, Shedeur Sanders here.
They
Giants
didn't mess up.
They didn't. And they went chalk, but they got exactly who they thought are both of our second best player. They get him at 3, and they still get a move up, which we'll talk about probably in about 15 minutes and make another pick. But yeah, Abdul Carter goes to the Giants.
Yeah, and then we talked about the Will Campbell pick, and, I'll give my 2 cents on it. But listen, I think this was the biggest need, and they didn't have the opportunity to take a Hunter or a Carter, so they got the guy they should get. They don't have to worry about it moving a Membu over to the left side. I think this was a good pick for New England. Very, very solid move. Then we go to the Browns, who moved back and took Mason Graham. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say we mocked this top 5 exactly in our last mock draft. Now, not the actual teams, because obviously they flipped there, but Mason Graham was in both of our top 5. And so we knew that he was going to be up there. Both guys, him and Will Campbell, had measurement concerns at the combine, but they still go in the top 5 because of the elite film they have, the difference makers. I think it fits really good next to Myles Garrett. Some people were saying if they did take Abdul Carter at 2, what is going to be there? Obviously, you have 2 elite pass rushers, but you see these great teams, these great defenses have edge pass rushers and people that can push the pocket in the middle. And that's what they add with Myles Garrett on the outside. And then obviously now adding Mason Graham. So like the player there for him. It's just crazy to me to think that they traded out, even though they got a really good haul, they traded out Travis Hunter. That it's just kind of a little crazy to me.
They got a good football player in Mason Graham. They got in good position for next year's draft, for the rest of this draft. It's just the what could have been that will linger, but isn't that the Browns' way? Ashton Jeanty at 6, a lot of smoke screens for an offensive lineman, and didn't end up happening. I think that if Ashton Jeanty had gone at 5 to Jacksonville, that's when we would have seen an offensive lineman. Offensive lineman didn't go. Jeanty at 6. I mean, great pick for Pete Carroll and the guys. They get one of the best players in this class.
Yeah, he gets a guy that, can be utilized similar to not similar, right? They're not the same player, I'm saying, but like he gets a Marshawn Lynch guy where, they can give him the ball 25 plus times a game, and the contact balance, things like that. Still got some things to fix there. They don't really have a receiver outside of Brock Bowers, who's their best pass catcher, even though he's tight end, and they got to fix the offensive line. But yeah, I mean, we did not mock this, but I think we saw there being a way. I was really interested to see if the Bears would trade up for him. There was a lot of talk about that too. That didn't happen. And I will say I just traded Bijan Robinson for the 101 and a couple other players in my dynasty league. And I actually do kind of like the fit because I think he's going to be a feature back for them very early in his career and for a long time.
Yeah, man. Then we go to 7, Armand Membou. The Jets get a player that fell right into their lap. Pretty sweet pick for the New York Jets. A grade pick for the Jets. They get to shore up their protection in front of Justin Fields, who we know has to be protected. It didn't work out in Chicago. That was one of the many reasons.
Perfect fit for him, or for the Jets too, because they don't have to move him to the left side. They just lost Morgan Moses. He's the best right tackle in this class, super athletic, and they kind of shore up that spot after losing a veteran. I got to say, I love this pick, this next one coming up, because I mocked this a ton. I was on this. I was super high on Tetairoa McMillan, and he gives Bryce Young a number 1 receiver. And I am so excited to watch, because Bryce Young, after, going into last year, you're like, gosh, is he going to make it? He had a bad rookie year. The last 8 games, he showed that he has what it is. And Carolina did exactly what I think you need to do for a young quarterback. You either need to protect him or you need to give him weapons to find out. And this is a great move for him. I love that he was a top 10 guy, because a lot of people had him falling out.
Carolina's in a little bit of a tough spot because they needed to help their quarterback, but they also needed to help one of the worst defenses in the NFL. They go for the receiver, Tetairoa McMillan. I don't know how much separation you're getting in a receiver room with Tet and Xavier Legette, but when you look at the room, Tet, Legette, Coker, and Adam Thielen, this is a very good wide receiver room for the young quarterback. So you're going to allow him to develop, and he is the centerpiece for this franchise. So Tet allows that to further come to fruition. My only concern, if they don't address the defensive side of the ball later on and don't get quality players there, you're going to score 30 to let up 35 in a lot of games. But listen, in the NFC South, you might not have to win as many games as some other teams are going to have to win. So the Panthers, obviously a team that was high on Tet. And if they're high on Tet, because he's a very high and low player, and if you're willing to invest in the highs, go for it.
Yeah. Kelvin Banks at 9 to the Saints. They needed O-line help. He gives you offensive tackle and guard versatility. I think that him and Fuanga on the left side are going to be a very fun combination to talk about, depending on who's at guard and who's at tackle. But nonetheless, they get offensive line help, which they needed, and it makes a lot of sense to protect an older Derek Carr, even though there was a lot of, talk like,
oh, is this Derek Carr?
Yeah, it may not be Derek Carr, because at 9, they're like, oh, his shoulder, blah, blah, blah. He hasn't had surgery. And you're like, oh, is this Shooter? And it was Kellen Banks. So we'll see if they make a move for another quarterback or a second round, guy there, or a later round guy. But yeah, Kellen Banks shores up the offensive line.
Yeah, I really like Kelvin Banks. I think this is around where he should have gone. We saw a lot of slides projected. As a Ravens fan, there was a point where I was getting my hopes up. Maybe we'd get him at 27. He goes 9. Vegas kind of reflected that recently, right? There was a lot of surge in the Kelvin Banks odds. So you knew there was a team that was in on him. I think it was both the Jets, if Membu was off the board, and obviously the Saints who get him at 9 to protect whether it's Derek Carr, Spencer Rattler, or somebody that they're going to get later on in this draft.
Yeah, this
Loveland now.
This pick was muddy. I didn't have him this high.
I'm gonna like it more than you did, but
no, I love the fit. I didn't have the player. I didn't have the player this high. I had him. Sorry, I'm trying to look now. I had him at 27. But man, you talk about freaking Colston Loveland, the tight end in that offense with Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams now is DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Colston Loveland. Man, they're building something special there. And then the great mind of Ben Johnson. I love the fit there. We'll talk about another fit here in 4 picks that we love at the same position. And we mocked that too. But the 2 fits right here, I don't know if they could be better.
No, I don't know if they could be better because I think Cole Kmet and Tyler Warren profile pretty similarly. While Colston Loveland gives you an excellent receiving threat, they're going to live in 12 personnel, but I think we need to start breaking the boundaries of how that phrase sounds, right? Because Colston Loveland brings you much more dynamic opportunities as an offense than just the sound of 12 personnel, because he's really a receiver if you want to use him that way. And he's got blocking upside that I think he'll grow into. So it's a great pairing. Him and Kmet complement each other perfectly. You and I both said over and over, Colston Loveland cannot be the best blocking tight end on your football team. He is not. And he's the best receiving tight end on his football team. Him, Rome, DJ, Kmet. My goodness. Caleb Williams has a plethora of weapons again. And we'll see if they add more. They have 2 second-round picks, so we'll see if they go in that direction.
It's more like 11 and a half personnel with the Bears.
Right. Exactly.
11 and a half. It's not 12. It's 11 and a half.
It's not as black and white as the personnel groupings sound right now. I wonder how long, truthfully, in this day of football, we're going to have such black and white position groupings. But Colston Loveland and the Bears will test that boundary. Nick Bosa gets an edge rusher across from him. I like this fit as well. Mykel Williams goes 11 to San Francisco. I think it's a high floor edge rusher with pass rush development opportunity across from a pass rush nuance specialist in Nick Bosa. And the 49ers just they flat out get a really good football player at 11.
Yeah, and I mean, we had talked about Kenneth Grant, who I think would have been a good fit there, but they go with the high floor in the run game with Mykel Williams, the freakish size to play opposite of Nick Bosa, and maybe shore up that defense. Seems like a Robert Saleh guy too, tough-nosed, big, physical. So like that fit there. Man, me and you are both going to probably pick this one apart. Tyler Booker to the Cowboys. I'm not saying they shouldn't have taken an offensive lineman. I don't know if they should have taken Tyler Booker because he's clearly not on our top 30. I don't even know if he's in both of our top 40s.
He's not in my 12. Top 50.
Yeah, he goes 12 to the Cowboys.
Yeah, they should have taken Gray Zabel or they should have taken Matthew Golden here. I thought this was pretty simple. Do you value receiver? Okay, I think it's pretty clear who the best one available is in the eyes of NFL teams. Now, I like Ibuka more than Golden by just a small margin, but I was pretty ready to say that I think NFL teams like Golden more than Ibuka, but one went before the other, so who knows? Somebody's been reading my big board. But then Gray Zabel is far and away a better player on the interior, in my opinion, than Tyler Booker. I think he's much more mobile, and he's got a great power profile, which is kind of Booker's calling card. So Zabel checks more boxes than Booker. He's also position versatile, guard or center. Where do you want him? Tyler Booker is just a guard, really focuses on that power profile. But outside of that, I don't know how much I like him. And I don't think Dallas has that kind of running back where you're going to be like, okay, let's load it up, power, get behind the offensive lineman, let's go. Like that's more like Zeke days Dallas, and it's not Zeke days in Dallas.
No.
So this is a really big head scratcher to me. I was watching this one with my friends, and they're like, who do you think they're going to take? And I go, it's Golden or Zabel. Goodell walks out there, and I'm like, and by the way, Tyler Booker would be a pretty bad pick. And boom.
Tyler Booker.
And I'm like, man, you wonder how much the clock's got to be ticking for Jerry, because it feels like his fingerprints are all over this just because I don't know, man. I'm head scratcher here.
Didn't love the fit. Didn't love the player there. He's going to be a solid NFL player. I just didn't love it at 12. And so,
no.
I think that we talked about interior defensive line too. Like I would have loved him to take a swing on Kenneth Grant or something. So
good segue.
Kenneth Grant goes 13 to the Dolphins. I really like this fit too. If
Me
he
too.
didn't go to the Niners, they're big, long, physical interior defensive lineman that can help in that pass rush game. And we both had him, in our top. Well, you had him in your top 10. I had him just outside at 14. And so we're both, pretty high on this guy. But yeah, the great fit, or I think it's a really good fit in Miami for Kenneth Grant.
I really like this fit because he's a big, tough football player who's got really good speed profile. Yes, you heard me right. The guy's up around 340 with a speed profile. He's one of my guys in this draft class, a few of my guys that went. He was the first one off the board in that group. And I just really like the way that he plays downhill. And I think he's going to bring a similar element that Miami got when they took Christian Wilkins. And I think this is a little bit of a turn back the clock pick for Miami. Really like the fit at 13. And I think they got good value on my board, to be completely honest.
Yep.
Tyler Warren to the Colts, a pick that we mocked 1,000 times. Everybody did, and it was one of the fastest "the pick is in" graphics.
I was going to say the Cowboys pick took forever.
Yep, the Chargers ran out of time.
Yeah, but the Colts one was in I swear 2 minutes. I think Chris Ballard just told him, I'm not waiting for you to tell me when. No, I'm going, because this is the fit we've talked about. What the Colts offense wants to do, still run the ball, and you have a guy like Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson. You're going to be run first, and Tyler Warren gives you more in the run blocking game, and then he can also be a great pass catcher, great receiving weapon with Michael Pittman and A.D. Mitchell for who's ever at quarterback. Is it going to be Tyler Warren? You don't know. He has played a little quarterback, but yeah, this is a great one.
I really like it. We don't have to spend too much time on it because we talked so much about it previously. Another really good fit, and I think this one hurts for Panthers fans. Jalen Walker falls into the Falcons' lap, and it was a player that was frankly mocked a bunch to the Panthers, so Panthers fans probably very familiar with the name. Goes to an in-division rival. They needed linebacker and an edge presence, and they got both with Jalen Walker. This is a quote-unquote reach in comparison to where I have him on my big board, but this fit completely erases that. I love the fit in Atlanta, and they keep the Georgia boy in the ATL.
Yeah, and with Raheem Morris there, he's a great defensive mind, great defensive coordinator. He's going to use him in good ways. I love how you said he fits both roles, because I think this is a guy that does multiple things. I know he's one player, but he almost fills two needs because of what he can do. He can only do one thing at a time, but he can do multiple things throughout a game and throughout a game plan. And so he kind of fixes two needs. And then again, they have another pick coming up, which we'll talk about, and I think they knocked it out of the park. So
me too.
16, Walter Nolan here. This is where we're going to start talking. We talked about interior defensive linemen. We thought 4 would come off. There were a little bit more than 4 that came off, so we'll get there. But Walter Nolan here for the interior defensive line of the Cardinals, just elite pass rusher, the first step that he is there. I like the fit for them also. We've said we like the fit for a lot of people here.
Yeah.
I will say there were only 2 or 3 head-scratching picks. We've talked about one. We might get to a couple more here. But there were really only 2 or 3 head-scratching ones. Everyone else, you can make an argument that we're like, hey, I see why they did it. They went on that side of the ball. They got a good player. And yeah, so this is another good one and a position in need for them. I thought maybe Mike Green was coming off right here. He didn't come off in the first round, which we'll talk about. But Walter Nolan makes sense here too.
Yeah, he's the 16th ranked player on my big board, so exact value there. I thought it was going to be him or Shamar Stewart. They went one after the other. I really like the fit. This team needed to get better on the defensive line, and that's absolutely what they did. The Bengals need to get better on the defensive line, and they got Shamar Stewart. And, as a Ravens fan, tough pick for me because I like the player here and I like the fit. It's something that they needed. And if they can manage to bring back Hendrickson, this is going to be a really good duo in Cincinnati.
Yeah. I mean, freak, he's an alien. He doesn't in college, he didn't have the production, but this dude is an absolute alien. He'll have a way. I actually hit this one on the head when I was live with the Patriots. I was like, man, there's no, Ted McMillan. I'm like, this is a great Zabel pick. And there were talks of them trading out of this one, right? There were talks about potentially other teams coming up. I was like, yeah, this makes great. They need interior. This is great Zabel. And another one that he played tackle in college, but they needed interior offensive line help. I think if Tet was there, they would have considered him. He doesn't fall that far. And they take Gray Zabel, who's going to be a very solid center or guard in the NFL and going to shore up that interior for who they have, Sam Darnold, because we know what Sam Darnold had problems with the last 2 games of the season.
Yeah, this was one of the 8 out of 32 team to player matches I had in my final mock draft. And Gray Zabel, the Seahawks did what they needed to do, and they needed to shore up the offensive line. Take Gray Zabel. You have to protect Sam Darnold. We know what he is, like you said, when he isn't protected, and the Seahawks don't want to find that out the hard way. So they do a good job in understanding what they need and taking Gray Zabel. The Buccaneers, this was a head scratcher, but not in a bad way. I was a little bit confused. You traded for Jalen McMillan in that draft pick trade that you alluded to in your fantasy league, which looks a little tough because now they have McMillan, Egbuka, and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Listen, I'm also a McMillan fantasy owner in Dynasty, so I was like, well, guess I can go drop him. I was surprised that the Buccaneers took a receiver. I saw it in either Daniel Jeremiah or Peter Schrager had them taking Tedero McMillan, and I was like, wow, receiver, because Jahdae Barron was on the board. He went one pick later. Jahad Campbell went a little further down. They do go receiver, and, listen, Mike Evans getting up there in age. Chris Godwin's run into a lot of health trouble, so they want to make sure the receiver room's good enough, but they invest a first-round pick in it. I love the player. I am a little skeptical of the pick. I'm curious to hear what you think of it.
Love the player, hate the fit. Someone, was asking, hey, is Chris Godwin's ankle that bad? If it was that bad, why'd they sign him to a 3-year deal? Now his contract is for 3 years, but after the second one, it can be a club option, but there comes with a $16 million dead cap hit. So they have a way to get out of the Chris Godwin. But yeah, with Jahdae Barron, I thought that Donovan Ezeraku was a spot here. James Pierce, I thought that there was 3 or 4 players, especially on the defensive side, that made more sense. I get that Baker Mayfield's great and they're going to throw the crap out of the ball, but they still have Bucky Irving they're going to want to get the ball to. I just didn't love them going receiver. I thought it was a little repetitive. Their 3 guys right there are one of the best in the league. I'd say it's a top 10 receiving core in the league. And so love the player, think he's a top 20 pick. I just don't love the fit. And I just am a little bit curious as to what their plan is with the other receivers. And maybe, I get it. Maybe Chris Godwin isn't going to come back fully healthy for the first half of the year, but still, I just don't see why they gave him a 3-year, $22 million a year deal and then go out and take a first-round receiver.
Yeah, we're in lockstep pretty much there. I wonder if the Bucs took the Broncos pick here at 20, but the Broncos end up with a great pick nonetheless. I think taking Jahdae Barron gives them a very nice option on the back end inside at nickel next to Patrick Surtain, who can also play some outside corner. Barron can maybe give you a little bit of help at safety as well if you want him to. Swiss Army knife in the back end. Love this pick for Denver.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about him and Surtain. It's going to be a crazy defensive duo right there. Thought Amari and Hampton made sense here, but they didn't take him. And they
Ravion Henderson as well. I thought they could have gone in that direction.
So Derek Harmon, a guy that I was high on, he was 24 on my big board. I think this is a great fit for them also, man. They need interior defensive line help. He's a twitchy pass rusher. I saw someone on Twitter say they comped him to Stephon Tuitt, and obviously Stephon Tuitt made a name for himself in Pittsburgh. So defensive help. This was kind of another shock too. I think that this was an obvious one where they're like, ooh, is Shedeur? Is this Shedeur? Is this where he's going?
Yeah.
And they stick with their gun and go Derek Harmon, shore up the interior defensive line.
Yeah, I think he's going to learn to fix those tackling issues we've talked about in Pittsburgh, right? They coached the crap out of those guys. So Derek Harmon, I think, is going to get the benefit of a very good fit in Pittsburgh. We were all holding our breath for this pick, but one of 2 Oregon Ducks comes off the board in the first round at 21. And looking back on it, I'm not really surprised that Pittsburgh kind of just went BPA. The Chargers at 22, they pair Amari and Hampton with Najee Harris. A lot of power in that backfield. And when you think about the coach and the OC, it's not surprising in the slightest. We've learned that Najee Harris cannot backpack and carry a backfield. So they add Amari and Hampton, who can be a bell cow. And listen, I think there were better picks leading up to this pick, but I think their board probably got run dry right in front of them. And they end up with Amari and Hampton, which is not a bad plan B at all.
No, not bad at all. I think that he's going to be able to handle, shoulder the load more than J.K. Dobbins would have. I know they re-signed him to a 1-year deal, right?
But I think he's out of there.
Did they not re-sign him? So
no.
That makes a little more sense. But I know he had I said Amari and Hampton's the pick here before. I even thought about that one, but I thought that they signed him for. But he's had injury concerns.
Najee's in there now.
Yeah, you know the injury concerns with J.K. Dobbins. But anyways, even with Najee Harris, they're a different type of runner a little bit. Najee Harris maybe can give you a little bit more pass catching out of the backfield, both powerful. But yeah, now you just have 2 bruisers that can run hard, and that's the exact style that the Harbaugh, that Jim wants to play with. So, man, this one was an electric pick too.
Best announcement of the night, man.
Being the first time that the Packers take a receiver being in Green Bay, and they hit it out of the park. Matthew Golden, another one that, man, they finally got one. And Aaron Rodgers is probably tearing, hair out of his head. He's wherever he is. He's probably in a dark room meditating. So maybe he didn't even watch the draft, but
he has
they
no
get Matthew
clue who
Golden.
Matthew Golden is.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because they have a lot of dynamic receivers in there. Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs, Dontavian Wicks. And obviously Matthew Golden's going to come in and probably be the number one right off the bat. But, man, they had Tucker Kraft emerge last year, Josh Jacobs. They have a loaded offense, so I'm interested to see where they move, if they move some of these receivers for later round picks, and what their plan is with some of them.
Luke Musgrave's another weapon that you mentioned that they invested a second-round pick into a couple years ago. Hasn't exactly come to fruition, but they have a lot of bodies in that receiver room, but it's about time they added a top dog. And I think that's what Matthew Golden gives you. Wicks has been flashy, but not consistent. Same with Reed. Watson struggled with injuries. Dobbs has, had some disagreements with, I know, how the offense has been run. And Josh Jacobs said it himself. We need to get an alpha wide receiver. And I think Matthew Golden brings that alpha mentality, maybe not the alpha play style where, he's going to go up and get it, but he's going to be a number one target for Jordan Love. I love the fit, the receiver to quarterback fit and the offensive scheme fit. I thought this was a great pick. Another one that I mocked in my final mock. The Vikings stick and pick at 24. I thought I was going to have to tear my note card to shreds if they stuck and pick, but instead they took Donovan Jackson, and they're left with, I think, only 3 picks for the rest of the draft after taking a guard.
Yeah. And I think me and you were both a little bit
lower
on Donovan Jackson. Now, we mocked Gray Zabel to him. We've talked about their need for interior offensive line, but I also just don't love Donovan Jackson that high. Another one of the head scratcher ones. They kind of fit a need. But yeah, I thought this was a definitely trade down one. I thought that there would be someone trying to get up. And I think we did hear later that the Eagles tried to get up to 23 and 24, and they didn't. So they must have seen a lot that they liked in Donovan Jackson. But Houston then trades the 25th pick to the New York Giants. And this is the big one. They trade pick 25 to the Giants for pick 34, 99, and a 2026 third rounder. And the Giants shock everyone. And I honestly don't think it's a shock. Did you see the GM son post a thing about him on Instagram? Man, that was crazy. So Jackson Dart goes 25, the second quarterback off the board before Shedeur Sanders. I mean, it's the guy that they said Dable wanted. There was talks about Jackson Dart even being to the Saints at pick 9, but he's quarterback 2 off the board. Did you keep him at quarterback 2 in your final rankings? There you go.
I did.
I know you had him up there when we did the quarterback episode, so you were on this one.
If you multiply the draft pick they took him at by 2, you have about where he is on my big board. But listen, I think Jackson Dart is more of a developmental player, so he fits perfectly into a system that's got 2 quarterbacks ahead of him. My question is, are Dable and Shane going to be the guys that get to develop him and get to unleash him in a year from now? We will see. I think this trade was great for both sides. The Giants got to keep 65, and they gave up 99. The Texans get adequate compensation. In my final mock, I had the Giants coming up to 24 for Jackson Dart. So I was 1 pick off. Listen, we found out that the Giants liked Dart over Sanders straight up. They took Dart with Sanders on the board. I talked about it. It's unusual to have somebody in for the amount of visits they had Shedeur Sanders in. They were at all of his games. They clearly didn't like something they saw. Wanted to double check. There was disagreement in the building. This is all obvious context clues. They end up with Dart. I'm glad that they got their guy and were not willing to cave towards consensus. They get the 5th-year option on the dude. So, man, if they believe in him, I think that's big stuff. I do think, it's kind of risky. If they go 6-11 and Dart doesn't play and the regime gets fired and they bring in a new head coach, new GM, does Dart even play for the Giants next year? We'll see. So long-term questions. Short-term, I love it. And if the Giants can keep their regime that likes Dart and want to develop him, home run here.
Yeah, and I almost wonder if it gives them an excuse if they do have 6 or 7 wins. It's like, hey, we did this with Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, whoever it is, on 1-year deal, but we got this guy developed. Like, give us another year. This is our guy.
It's a lifeline, and they took Abdul Carter, so they checked both of those boxes.
Yep, another big trade, and this one was a big one.
Lopsided trade.
You think so?
I think the Rams knocked it out of the park compensation-wise, but the Falcons aced the pick.
I agree. I think that the Falcons needed to do something like this because of how bad their pass rush game was. They said that they wanted to take James Pierce at 15, but they took Jalen Walker. Well, now he falls to 25. Atlanta gives up pick 46, 242, and a 2026 first-round pick to move up with the Rams to pick 26 and 101. But they take James Pierce, who, in my opinion, he was the third best edge. He has that elite pass rushing ability. He fell a little bit because of character concerns, but he has the bend, he has the twitch, he has the size and length that maybe Abdul Carter and Mike Green don't have. But man, they just dramatically improved their pass rushing game and that defensive front seven.
Yeah, an ace pick here. I think James Pierce Jr., that first step in 1.5 speed. They clearly believe in the guy because they gave up their first round pick next year. They clearly don't believe it's going to be that high of a pick, and their goal is to go win the division and go win some playoff games. They may run into the Rams, who ended up moving back a considerable amount, right? The Rams aren't like the Giants that had a pick at 34. The Rams won't pick in this draft until 46, and then again not again, excuse me, because they don't have their own second round pick. It's in the hands of Carolina. So the Rams clearly not really valuing the top end talent in this draft class, which is a report we've heard about multiple teams, but the Falcons go up and get an edge rusher I really like. And I'll happily intro the next one is the Ravens at number 27 got Malachi Starks, inserting themselves as perhaps one of the best top 3, top 1, perhaps safety duos in the NFL. Top 1.
It's elite, bro.
Came out of your mouth, not mine. Ardarius
You
Washington.
Forced me to say it. You forced me to say it.
Ardarius Washington's a free agent after next season, so they'll have the 3 of them roaming on the back end this year. And then I think the complement of Malachi Starks and Kyle Hamilton is picture perfect. We talk about perhaps having Nicky Manwari. Does that clash? Is that too much? They opt for Starks. That's the pick I wanted. For all the draft day fans, probably the best bad movie of all time. I had my note card that I wrote up. I sent it to Jace. I said Malachi Starks, no matter what on that. I wouldn't tell Jace who it was, except I think I sent you a Tony Stark gif.
Yeah, you did.
As perhaps a little hint. And the second I heard Mal out of Roger Goodell's mouth, I lost it. So I really love this pick for the Ravens. And I hope they can get aggressive with the 10 picks they have remaining and perhaps move up and go get an edge rusher that they like, a Braden Swinson, JT Tuimoloau, etc.
And we had Malachi Starks falling a couple mock drafts, and it just felt wrong. But you heard this morning that, hey, the Ravens' dream pick is Malachi Starks. And, yeah, the fit next to Kyle Hamilton is elite. It is, in my opinion, the best safety duo in the league. What both those guys can do, how dynamic they are, it's great. And, man, the Ravens, and we'll talk about it with the Eagles, the reason they're so good year in and year out is they just take good football players, man. They don't overthink the picks, and they just take good freaking football players. Kyle Hamilton had a little bit of a knock, too. And look at him. He's been great. Tyler Linderbaum had a little bit of a knock too. And, he was great. He's been great too. So they just take good football players. The Lions, do you follow like the PFF? I know you watch it live, but do you follow like the PFF draft tracker?
I do not. No.
So because we're live, we're streaming it. We also have the PFF draft tracker up when we do it. They entered, I'm not lying to you. They entered in Tyleek Rayner, running back, Temple. And I said, holy crap, what did these guys do? I don't even know Tyleek Rayner. No way they just took him as a first-round running back. The dude graduated in 2018 from Temple. They had a major glitch. So I see you, PFF. Don't you be fooling me like that again. I was like, who is this guy? Did they just rake the reach of the – it was crazy, bro. I was shocked.
Oh, man.
But they take Tyleek Williams, the 5th. I think both of us said 4 would go off. We believe 4 would go off.
Yes, we said 4.
I don't know if we thought 5 would go off.
No, but I love it, man.
Man, it's – and I think the Lions looked at it and said, hey, look at the Eagles. Look at how they built their – well, we have Aiden Hutchinson. We have a good secondary. Let's go get Tyleek Williams to push the pocket, big, powerful, stout in the run, the type of player that is from, he's Ohio State. Now he's going to Michigan, but he's got that mentality up there. So that fit too, man. That it's not one that we mocked a lot, but you look at it and you go, man, that makes a lot of sense.
He's going to create pocket chaos for Aiden Hutchinson to go rack up some sacks. And this is a guy you and I both really like. We both had him at IDL 5, and we both confidently were like, there's people that have him in the mix with the TJ Sanders and the Darius Alexanders of the world. And you and I were like, no, it's comfortably Tyreek's world at 5 here. And the Lions viewed it that way. They went up and got their guy, very Dan Campbell style pick. The Commanders shocked me a little bit and picked the tackle that was the best guy remaining at the position on my board, but I didn't think that's how it was going to play out. Josh Connerly, the tackle with excellent movement skills out of Oregon, goes 29 to the Commanders. I thought this was going to be the spot where Will Johnson went off. That's where I had him mocked in my final mock, falling to 29, and I was going to have some commenters to respond big time to if they were like, no way Will Johnson falls to 29, you Michigan hater.
Well, you
and
can still say that because he's fallen past 29.
Correct. They go with Josh Connerly, and I think this is a guy that could start on the left side, right side, at guard or tackle for you. So nice pick for the Commanders.
They prioritize protecting their AP offensive player of the year and their number 2 pick last year. And they take Josh Connerly, who I agree was the best offensive tackle. The other one I was really interested. I've mocked this, and I know we have to. Travion Henderson is where I thought this was a potential one. They need a running back. I thought that could be a spot, but I love the protection for Jaden Daniels. Yeah. This is I would say 3rd, potentially 4th head scratcher. I didn't like the Maxwell Harrison pick, not with Trey Amos on the board. I know
not with Will Johnson on the board either.
And
that's
I was going to say, I know that there's red flags coming up because of a knee injury and stuff for Will Johnson. I don't think that's enough to say no, unless it's just that bad. I also, I like Savone Ravel more than Harrison. I get that maybe he wasn't ready to play. But I was a little bit the fit. I get it. He's big, he's long, he's fast, he plays press man. I just didn't really. I thought there was a little more flaws in the player than Trey Amos, especially Will Johnson. And we'll see how far the Will Johnson slide continues. But this was another head scratcher with the other corners on the board.
Yeah, if you're looking for a clean prospect trying to avoid injuries, Amos is the pick here. That's who I had mocked here. That's who I felt pretty comfortable about going here. I know the Bills probably want to remain healthy on the back end. I thought if they wanted to go back end and avoid Johnson, it'd be Eamon Worry in this spot. I didn't like Harrison as a first-round pick. I think he's 40-yard dash merchant in terms of draft stock. I think this is a guy that isn't a physical player, is a little bit scrawny in the build, plays off-man coverage, and just wins with his recovery speed. I don't know how sustainable that's going to be in the NFL. I think he's going to get picked on in short yardage a little bit. You're going to have a bigger receiver throw a screen route to a Jaden Higgins build guy and just let him run Hairston over. I don't think he's that productive as a tackler either. Really not a fan of this pick. I think he creates havoc on the back end and flies around. So if that's what Buffalo thinks they need, they probably should have taken, Will Johnson or Savon Ravel. But clearly they like the guy, and I think last time they took a guy in this spot, it was Kyrie Elam, and he's gotten playoff reps before, so that worked out well, right? Jahad Campbell, 31, Philly. They trade up one spot. They were trying to trade up all night for the number 6 player on my big board. Great pick for Philly, A+, Howie masterclass. Not much to say about this. I love the player.
No, between him and Malachi Starks, where they went compared to where they are on both of our big boards and a lot, this is probably the steal of the draft. Such a good player. And like you said, that defense just reloads, man. It is a Howie Roseman masterclass. He's going to be really good for them. And I know the labrum was probably why he slid a little bit, but man, I see maybe why Nakobe Dean slid a little bit a couple years ago because he was a little smaller. Jahad Campbell had no reason for falling this far, even though he is maybe at a lesser of a premium position. That athlete, no way.
Yeah, and listen, Louis Riddick, I think, is the one that said it. If you have a labrum injury and you're going to miss rookie mini camp and the start of OTAs and all that sort of stuff, what better situation to go to than the Philadelphia Eagles? So that's a great spot. Wrapping up the first round, another team to player match I had. Josh Simmons was going to say I think it'd be tough to watch him fall out of the first round. I know the Houston Texans were praying that he was probably going to fall out of the first round. He did not. The Kansas City Chiefs get somebody that's going to start on their offensive line. But if they're worried about injuries, you and I have both said we think they have 5 startable players in line at the offensive line position right now, and then Simmons will slide in over one of them. So I think this is a great pick for the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, 11 on my big board. Obviously, the injury, I knew he was going to slide a little bit further, but the player, once he's healthy, the talent is a starting caliber left tackle for a long time in the NFL. So that's
do it, man. 2 rounds,
a little bit of a nightmare pick, but yeah. Let's do a 2-round mock draft, guys. We're gonna. I mean, it's late, and I mean, it's the 2 rounds of a mock draft. We're doing the second round. PFF already has it filled in. We're going to make this a little bit faster. Not going to
trades, right?
No trades. No. And I think let's collaborate a little on this one. We haven't done a collab draft. Let's collaborate a little. So we'll start with Cleveland on the clock at 33. Is this the shooter spot?
I think it's chalk, but I think this is the Shedeur spot. I think the Browns probably like the guy. I think he fits for a Stefanski team. Let's go in that direction.
I agree. I like Shedeur Sanders there. Houston comes on the clock now. They didn't have a first round pick because they traded out. I'm going to switch between these ones. They didn't have a first round pick. They traded out here. So now they're on 34. Josh Simmons would make sense here. Is there really an offensive lineman you see worth going right here?
No, I don't think Ariante Ursary or Jared Wilson. Those were the two options I'm looking at. I don't think either of those fit. I look at a Luther Burden here and say, can we get a compliment to a Nico Collins? I think they need somebody that can help out CJ Stroud and somebody they can get the ball out quickly to. Luther Burden would be my pick in this spot.
I agree, especially with the Tank Dell injury. He's had 2 big injuries the last couple of years, and he's probably not going to be healthy right now. And then Stephon Diggs is obviously in New England. So I like the fit there. The fall for Luther Burden also comes off the board. Super dynamic guy with the ball in his hands. Tennessee goes Cam Ward with the first overall pick. They could use an edge rusher too, man. They were talking to Abdul Carter. Can. Is this the Mike? This is Mike Green, probably pretty chalk.
They pass on my edge 1 to get my edge 2 around later. Let's do it. Mike Green. And listen, character concerns may slide him, but we can't sit on a podcast right now and tell you we would pass on Mike Green here.
Well, Cleveland, they have a chance to have a haul. Mason Graham at 5, Shedeur Sanders just a couple picks ago.
Will Johnson?
Man, it makes sense, Will Johnson. I don't know how far. The other one I wanted to bring up, is there any Travion Henderson thought right here? Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I think Will Johnson, well, obviously Will Johnson's the better player. There's no doubt about that. I think that's the chalk consensus pick, but do they at least consider, with the health of Nick Chubb, the age and stuff, getting Travion Henderson a home run hitter?
I think they have to consider it. I just think the difference is, would you rather have, Will Johnson and RJ Harvey, or Travion Henderson and Benjamin Morrison or Dorian Strong? So I think Will Johnson considerably outweighs the value. And I wonder if Mason Graham is going to lobby them to be like, yo, take this guy. He's fine.
I agree.
Healthy, fine, great player.
We'll take Will Johnson. Gosh, I don't know how far he's going to slide, but this could be like, was it Cooper DeJean that fell far last year? Yeah, and the Eagles swipe him up, and obviously
that worked out fine.
You're like, okay. Raiders get Ashton Genty. Is there a spot you want to go here?
You think about offensive line. I'm not ready to pull the trigger on
Ursary
here. I think they need a pass catcher in this spot. I don't know if, you certainly can't look at a tight end. It's got to be receiver. And then corner, we kind of took Will Johnson. I don't mind Trey Amos in this spot. And then if you look at the wide receiver room, I mean, who do they have at receiver right now? Is it just Jacoby Myers?
Yeah, because Devontae Adams is gone.
I like a Jaden Higgins in this spot.
It's my biggest nightmare. It's my biggest nightmare because you're one pick away.
Let's not do it.
No,
let's go with Trey Amos.
I think it happens.
All right. Then listen.
Let me say this. I hope the Patriots are aggressive and trade up for him. Like, you want the Ravens. I want them to trade up and get their guy. Maybe he's not even on their radar. Right now, after the Patriots address the left tackle, the receiver is the biggest need. And I love Ted McMillan. They don't have a bigger bodied X receiver. I want them to be aggressive. I would be scared shitless for 10 minutes waiting for this pick to come in, because I think it makes way too much sense to not go Jaden Higgins. And so maybe I'm going to do it and put some good mojo in the air. So maybe they won't do it in real life. But I agree with you. This one scares me. I would say Jaden Higgins right now makes sense for them.
Let's jinx it. Jaden Higgins to the Raiders goes 37. The Pats on the clock at 38. Which direction would you want to go here?
Yeah, it's hard. I don't know if there's a receiver. I'm not high on A.O. Manor. My next best receiver with Burden and Higgins going off the board would be Royals, but I also think that's a reach. Does the NFL really want to take Kyle Williams at 38? I'm not sure. This one's tough.
Is Jack Besh the Will Campbell of wide receivers?
Yeah, probably. If I was going here, I'd probably take Ezra or Scorton. Need a little bit of an edge rusher. You did pick up Harold Landry in the offseason, but he's more of a run stuffer. So maybe Ezra, the production, the technical side. It wouldn't be the flashiest pick, but, going through all the other ones, they want to pick up a running back, but you could get that in the third, which obviously we're not going to do. There's no offensive lineman I'd want to double dip on. Corner,
would you go Trey Amos across from Well, you got Carlton Davis. You're right. Trey
I
Amos,
would
Washington
love to. I would
Gonzo
love
is
to because of the talent on the board. But
right.
with the Carlton Davis signing, I think Ezra Raku is the best player available. And I think that the Patriots would want to look at the best player available in this position. So I'll go Ezra Raku.
Let's go in that direction. I love it. The Chicago Bears, they took Colston Loveland. We talk about them maybe needing an edge rusher or a running back. We have the opportunity to do both. We got Nick Scorton available in the edge rush room. And then at running back, I think it would just be, do we think Judkins or Henderson is the better fit? I think Henderson's a little bit more Jahmyr Gibbsy.
Yeah.
Is that the direction you want to go in, Henderson?
Yeah, and this is a little bit of strategy, right? Because I think that the Saints could look at a running back right here.
Yeah.
So do you feel like, hey, Henderson needs to go here, and then we'll look at edge later? Would you take Henderson or your running back here just to protect?
I think I'm way more likely to tell you the Saints are going to take Nick Scorton at 40 instead of Henderson, because I think the Saints. What the Saints do? They got trenches. I think they need to go. I think they need to go get an outside wide receiver with this pick at 40, or Mason Taylor, I think is certainly an option. I don't know if the Saints are going to go running back at 40. I'd save running back for 41 because we're looking at Nick Scorton right here at edge rusher, and the drop off to Braden Swinson is much more substantial than missing out on Henderson and then just having to quote unquote settle for Judkins.
Yeah, I could see them going Nick Scorton here. So let's go Nick Scorton for the Bears.
Mm-hmm.
The one that pops in my mind for the Saints, tell me if I'm wrong, they just traded Marshawn Lattimore. I think Trey Amos is great value right here.
I think Trey Amos is exceptional value. I think he's, without looking at it, probably the best player on my big board left. Yeah. So I think it's either Trey Amos, or do you want that outside wide receiver in a Jack Besh? Kyle Williams feels a little bit too similar to Chris Olave.
I don't know. The other one I was going to talk about that seems like their type of guy, long, physical, Landon Jackson. Is it a little bit of a reach for them? He doesn't give you much pass rush ability, but you lose out on Nick Scorton. Do you go get a Landon Jackson?
Second round version of Michael Williams, who they were linked heavily to. So listen, Landon Jackson or Trey Amos. I think Landon Jackson may be the Saintsy pick. Trey Amos is certainly what you and I would do. I'm going to leave it up to you in which direction you want to go in.
Let's go with I think, because in my opinion, I don't know if you want to, are you doing a 2-round mock draft tomorrow like you're going to post on your Instagram?
No, I'm just going to post my best 30 available.
Okay, I was going to say maybe we post this and stuff. Maybe I'll find time to post it and stuff, and we can compare. I think Landon Jackson makes a little more sense here. I think that's what
Landon Jackson
would want.
Landon Jackson.
Now running back at 41 for the Bears, probably.
Mm-hmm. Henderson?
Yeah, Henderson's both of our threes, right?
Yeah.
Clear. Yeah, I would go Henderson too. He gives you the home run ability. I think he fits a little bit better next to DeAndre Swift too.
Yeah, this was the Jets at 42 is kind of the Tyleik Williams spot. No longer. They end up with their offensive tackle. Is this potentially a Mason Taylor spot for you?
I think it's definitely in consideration. The other one I was going to look at is a bigger receiver. Would they want a Trey Harris or an Alec Aomanor? I'm not high on either of those guys at this spot. I probably would prefer Mason Taylor, but is there, a way that they would say, let's take one of those outside receivers and pair him with Garrett Wilson? I don't know. I would probably lean Taylor. Yeah, I could see that.
Would you lean Taylor or would you lean corner? How's their corner and what do they have? Sauce Gardner. I feel like it's a deep corner without much quality, but I feel like they have a lot of bodies, right?
Yeah, because DJ Reed just got who'd he sign with? I forget who he signed with. But
someone else. I don't.
He's gone. So they have Michael Carter at nickel, Brandon Stevens at right corner, Sauce Gardner.
Oh yeah, they need a corner,
left corner. So
yeah, you can't start Brandon Stevens. You cannot start Brandon Stevens.
Probably go
the Ravens
Trey
fan
Amos.
telling you that you can't do that. Let's go get Trey Amos for the Jets. Save them from Brandon Stevens playing every snap on the outside.
Niners took Michael Williams. Could use some guard. Is there a guard one? Tate Ratledge maybe here?
Tate Ratledge. The Niners took a swing last year with Dominic Pooney in round 2. They hit on that. Could you go Tate Ratledge here, or would you want to go with a big Jonah Savanaia, a Ariante Ursary, a Marcus and Bo, somebody in that direction?
I kind of like the Jonah Savanaia pick with the positional versatility, tackle or guard. I think Ariante Ursary is a great option at tackle. But if you want a little bit more versatility, because I think they need both, or help at both, you Jonas Savnaia, yeah, you're right. Probably comes off a little bit earlier than we think. The other, I think in our 2-round mock, we did Marcus Mbo, right? Because of his scheme fit as a guard.
I think Jonah's going to go first, though.
Okay, let's do it. Jonas Savnaia. Cowboys, Tyler Booker. What do we want to do with them? Do we just want to screw them because they did what we don't like? And
who's the Temple running back? Give him that guy.
yeah, give it to him. We can't even find him.
I think that Quinshon Judkins is squarely in play here. I don't know if there's an edge rusher that I would go with. I think, they certainly juggled receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they take a Jack Besh. He plays football in Texas, so he's automatically higher on Jerry Jones's board. Jalen Royals probably an option here. Maybe an Elik Ayoman or somebody to complement CeeDee Lamb. I like the sound of a Besh next to a CeeDee Lamb. Is it that the direction you want to go to? It's that or like a Quinshon Judkins.
Yeah, and I think you have Judkins higher than me. I would probably put Caleb Williams in this spot, or sorry,
Caleb
Johnson in this spot over a Quinshon Judkins.
I just think Judkins goes first. I have Judkins. I have Caleb Johnson above.
I would take Judkins over Besh. I would take Judkins over Besh.
Let's go Judkins, just because I think the NFL is going to be higher on Judkins than Caleb Johnson.
Yeah. Tyler Warren goes to the Colts at pick 14.
Mason Taylor here?
Might as well. Why not? Gosh, edge rusher. What's edge looking like? I know they got Jared Verse last year. You could take a swing with like a Braden Swinson. I like
the Swinson. Femi Oladejo. Does the range start there for him?
Could. I was going to say, do they look at like a Swessinger?
Swessinger, I think. Oh, yeah. Or Xavier Watts.
Oh, they could go safety. Yeah. Let's see. Linebacker, Swessinger or Demetrius Knight?
I think Watts here and Swessinger to the Rams at 46, maybe our next two picks.
Okay, let's do it. So Watts to the Colts at pick 45. Make sure I click the right one. And then now we're going Carson Swessinger, the linebacker out of UCLA, to the Rams at pick 46.
Just a little reasoning for that. I think, Swessinger had a lot of first-round buzz as a late potential sleeper first-rounder. I wonder if that was from the Rams and why they were comfortable trading back to 46, a spot where they could still get him. They need linebacker. And so I think the Rams at 46 are squarely in play for a Carson Swessinger.
Cardinals took Walter Nolan at 16, so now they're up at 47. They need corner help. Is this Benjamin Morrison? Do they take a swing on Savone Ravel, Darian Porter, Azarie Thomas?
You know who I would take in that.
You take Azarie?
I would take Azarie. I don't know if this is a spot for like a Tate Ratledge. Maybe they want a receiver here or get a third guy in that room. But I feel like they have
I don't love the receivers right there.
Me neither. And I think because they have such a good tight end, they have a good 1, 2, 3 in terms of targets. I like that corner room. There's a lot of good names. I just think you and I could decide on which guy to take.
Yeah, I'd go Ravel. I have him higher. But I think Azarie Thomas, younger. He's going to be healthier, more healthy right now. So I could see them taking Azarie Thomas.
Let's go Thomas. So
Dolphins took what? Kenneth Grant.
Dolphins took Kenneth Grant.
They could still use interior offensive line.
Tate
Ratledge. Corner. They need corner too. I mean, you could just turn around and give Savone Ravel to them.
Yeah, I think we can do it, man, because they there's rumors floating about Jalen Ramsey on the move. I think you could go Ravel in this spot. Let's do it.
Let's go Savone Ravel. There's no way I'm not taking another defensive guy in this spot, maybe, but I think they still need to look at the defensive side of the Cincinnati Bengals at 49. It's just a matter of what position they took. Shamar Stewart. Is there an interior defensive line that we like? A Darius Alexander to plug the middle? It's a
little early
Demetrius
for me.
Knight?
Yeah, Demetrius Knight in play here for sure at linebacker. Listen, the Bengals have to address the defensive side of the ball. I don't think there's a guard that they would really take. We kind of looked at that. It's probably between I don't think they double up on edge because then if Hendrickson comes back, you're kind of like, well, now what? So Darius Alexander or Demetrius Knight is probably the direction I would lean. I think I have Alexander rated higher on my board. It's just the question of whether or not you think they're going to spend 2 picks on the defensive line, although those are 2 different positions.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up their depth chart right now. I got to remember who their interior D line guys are. So they have BJ Hill, who's a bigger run stopper, if I'm not mistaken, and TJ Slayton. And then Chris Jenkins Jr. Is that the Michigan guy they took last year? They
Yes.
took 3 D tackles last year. I don't know if
No,
it's
they're not
D-tackle.
doing it again.
Yeah,
All right, let's go.
it's probably
Demetrius
Demetrius
Knight.
Knight. Yeah, that makes the most sense. Seattle took Gray Zabel, edge, or do they need another lineman? Do they need Tate Ratledge?
Could I interest you in a Nicky Manwari here?
Oh yeah, you could definitely interest me. I forget that he's still on the board.
Yeah, PFF kind of messes with us. I do not think he'll last to 50. I think PFF doing a little messing with us, having him rated at 67, because I definitely think he comes off before this. But he's also a safety, so there's a chance he slides. But I don't think Mike McDonald would pass on this guy twice.
Yeah, I like that. I want to go back real quick because I forgot he was on the board still until you say that. Is there a spot that we missed that would have taken him? Gosh.
Maybe the Bears in that one spot, one of those 39 or 41s. We
Yeah.
took Xavier Watts, but I kind of like Watts fits maybe just a little bit better than Emanwari for the Colts. But the Colts do love their athletes, so Emanwari maybe to the Colts would have been a great spot. And then there's obviously just a question of if he ends up in the BPA conversation for a team that maybe doesn't need safety, but just is like, look, can't pass on the guy.
Yeah.
But here we have him going 50. Listen, guys are going to fall. It may not be him, but there's going to be players that fall. The Broncos took Jahdae Barron. I feel like they would address offense here. Running back, if we look at it, Caleb Johnson still available. I think that guy definitely in play. I've mocked him here before. And then Jack Besh, kind of an option for me at receiver here.
Yeah, I mean, on the receiver front, I still have Royals a little bit ahead of Besh, but I could see them taking Besh just because of Royals fit next to like a Cortland Sutton.
I think Marvin Mims and Jalen Royals might just be a little too similar.
Yeah. I could definitely see that. I would lean Caleb Johnson here. Caleb Johnson. I don't know why it was a little shocking that they didn't take one, in the first round, because there was a lot of rumors Sean Payton was even trying to go up. I would probably go Caleb Johnson here.
Let's do it. Some more power, but also speed. He brings some sneaky speed, some gliding speed next to Audric Estime. Nicky Manwari and Gray Zabel for the Seahawks. They're back on the clock here. Do we go Jared Wilson? Do we get the center, get the guard, and get out of here? Or do we go for that edge rusher that they still are looking for?
Yeah, I think that the interior offensive line is the biggest need with Sam Darnold. I think the best players in this spot are at the edge position. I'd be very comfortable taking a Braden Swinson or swinging with a guy like Olufemi Oladejo, Josiah Stewart, one of those guys that's a little bit more pass rush oriented. So do you want to fill the biggest need, or do you want to fill the best player?
I think let's go Oladejo. He's not my best edge rusher available, but I think the league's going to be very high on him, and I think would be a good spot for him to go.
I love that guy. He looks swaggy. This is another spot for edge rusher, I think, too.
Or a scouting.
Yeah, good point. I think they could go Braden Swinson.
They need defense, man.
Yeah, they need defense. Corner, is there a corner worth looking at right here?
Benjamin Morrison, I think the league is going to be certainly high on. Linebacker, we kind of ran that well dry. Kevin Winston Jr. plays well close to the football. I wonder if that's an option, but I would kind of lean Benjamin Morrison here.
Okay.
Or like a JT Tuimoloau feels like a Todd Bowles kind of havoc player.
Yeah. You would think JT Tuimoloau for the edge fits a little better than Braden Swinson in Tampa?
I do, just because Braden Swinson's kind of that 1 year of pop production, and I feel like Bowles wants that steady guy. If you like an Ezeraku, I feel like Tuimoloau is more your guy as well.
Yeah, I like JT Tuimoloau in this spot just a little bit better. I think that Green Bay could look at Benjamin Morrison right here, a corner with the Jair Alexander. He requested a trade, right? I'm not tripping, but then there hasn't been much news after that.
No, hopefully the Ravens unload one of their 10 picks.
So, I mean, corner at all?
Yeah, I mean, do we do it again with Darian Porter? That kind of feels, again.
That's the type of guy they draft.
I think, listen, we've hammered that home for a reason. I think Darian Porter's a very logical pick for the Packers at 54. Type of guy they pick, playing his best football right now. Still room to develop, even though he's an older player, and gonna give it his all on special teams.
Yeah, let's take Darian Porter there. Chargers, they took Amari Hampton. I would like is
Mason
Jack
Taylor, and in my opinion, I think Mason Taylor would be the guy here.
We took Mason Taylor, did we not?
No, I don't think so.
Did we talked about it, but we
talked about it
for
right. Like 11 picks in a row.
Yeah, Mason Taylor. I agree. Mason Taylor. Man, putting him in that offense with Ladd McConkey, Justin Herbert, and then Amari Hampton. Yeah, I like that a lot. Buffalo, they have two more picks here.
Let's right the ship for the Bills. Let's right the ship. They went with Maxwell Hairston.
Yeah.
And so I like Braden Swinson. He's my edge 8 on the board. I like him comfortably over Numan Mielen. Linebacker, I don't think we can really address linebacker, although you can get a little bit of a linebacker feel with Kevin Winston Jr., and they need safety. I kind of like that. Listen, they need help on the back end. I know they addressed it with Hairston. They have another pick in this round to go get an edge rusher, though. I kind of lean Winston.
You think that I hear the safety all the time? They just took Cole Bishop a couple years ago and stuff like
last year.
Winston's better than Cole Bishop. You're right.
Yes,
but
straight up. But
yeah, okay. Do you want to take
hold
Winston?
On? What's the rest of their? Is it Taylor Rapp, DeMar Hamlin, and Cole Bishop?
Yeah, let me pull it up.
Regardless of whether or not, if it's those three, regardless of them taking Cole Bishop, I'll take Winston over, Rapp's been hurt. And then, DeMar Hamlin isn't, the best player out there. And then Cole Bishop, young player. I like Winston straight up over better him. I think there's always room to course correct.
Yeah. But we'll go with Kevin Winston.
And then we'll double back and get an edge rusher.
Yeah. Panthers took Ted McMillan. Gotta go defense here. Gotta go defense here.
Jinx.
Yeah, seriously. Edge or corner makes the most sense. Is there an interior defensive lineman we like? Would they go Darius Alexander here?
Benjamin Morrison at corner. I think Darius Alexander, TJ Sanders, certainly an option. A low moving cost there. And then edge rusher, man, Swinson sticks out a little bit.
Yeah. I feel like Swinson's a guy that they'll like too.
So here's what I'll tell you. I like Swinson or TJ Sanders. I like Alexander straight up on my board more than Sanders. I think they need to get after the passer. So I think Sanders is better at doing that. I'm sorry. I have Sanders higher than Alexander on my board.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure you're higher.
You're lying. I am. Swinson is a better player, in my opinion, than TJ Sanders. That's the guy I'd lean with. So Swinson or TJ for me.
Yeah, I like
Darius in play too.
Let's go Swinson here. Let's see. We took Burden in the pick 34, so the second pick of this second round for the Texans. O-line. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think Ratledge.
Yeah.
No, who's the left tackle they just got? They got someone, right?
So listen, they have a lot of bodies on the offensive line, but they need a starter. So is their center locked up? Because if their center's not locked up, I like Jared Wilson.
Yeah, so Houston signed Cam Robinson. That's why I don't think that they're gonna
take a tackle.
It was a 1-year deal though, right? It was a 1-year prove it deal. Their center is Jarrett Patterson.
Oh man, and Notre Dame, like day 3 pick a couple years ago.
Yeah, Jarrett Patterson was a 6th round pick. Yep.
Ooh.
Yeah, Jared Wilson makes more sense here.
I like Jared Wilson. Yeah. I mean, I think Arion Territory is just a little bit higher on my board than Jared Wilson, and then I like Wilson more than a Tate Ratledge. Yeah, man.
Yeah, Cam Robinson signed a 1-year, $12 million deal, so they're not really tied to him, but
Arion Territory would be perfect to develop behind him, but I think they need O-line help now.
Yeah. We'll go Jared Wilson. Yep. Any preference here for your Ravens?
Man, how can we make the rich richer? Did you hear somebody messed up that saying? Jahad Campbell was like, the richer got rich. And I was like, Alabama education.
That's them football players. They ain't go just class.
Malachi Starks, I have, maybe a little bit of a Tate Ratledge thought here. Benjamin Morrison certainly in play. Darius Alexander as a run stopper. to replace a Michael Pierce, maybe a Princely Umanmielen, although he's not my favorite player. Let's see. Ursary, developmental tackle, could go in that direction. I know there's a lot of ties to the Michigan guys, so maybe a Josiah Stewart. This is kind of the reason I'd like the Ravens to go get aggressive. Like I think Swinson is the cutoff, at least in this mock. Or you go get a Tui Maloau. Like you got to go get one of those guys because I think there's a drop off when you get to this portion of the edge room. I like Benjamin Morrison. I don't like him that much as a prospect, but I think the NFL will like Benjamin Morrison. And if the guy's healthy, he's certainly a better player than if he isn't.
Yeah.
The Ravens don't dabble that much with injury concerns, but let's do Morrison because if we don't get him here, I don't know if we'll take him off the board. So he'll come off at 59.
Yeah. I like receiver here for the Lions, and the fit for me that stands out is Jalen Royals or Kyle Williams. Now, Kyle Williams feels, I know he's not quite as fast as Jameson Williams, but I don't know. What receiver do you like here? I think Royals fits next to Amon-Ra and Jameson.
I wonder if Royals is a little bit similar to Amon-Ra. I almost wonder if an Elik Ayomanor is a go up and get it guy, but I just don't. If I were to be in charge, I don't know if I could justify a second round pick on that guy. I think his best.
I can't either.
I think his best trait is blocking, and if that's your best trait, you're a receiver. So listen,
I would prefer Trey Harris over Ayomanor.
Is there a chance they just go? Yes, I would prefer Trey Harris over Ayomanor too. Is there a chance they go Tate Ratledge and just double beef like Tyleek and? Oh man, I put the image of Dan Campbell drafting a guard with a mullet in my head. I like receiver for them. Yeah. Do they still have Tim Patrick? Like, I feel like they have a little bit of a deeper room. They're in some way, they're kind of like the Ravens, right? Where I think they have like two guys and then it's like, and the Eagles as well, where they have two guys and it's like the chase to get them the third. Do they even need the third though?
Yeah, they still have Tim Patrick, but other than that, I mean, you're looking at their fourth and fifth. It's Khalif Raymond and Antoine Green, Tom Kennedy, Ronnie Bell.
Wow. Okay. So
and then I mean they probably need they need a right guard. They have Christian Mahogany as a backup one.
He's gonna start.
Yeah, they have right now. Gosh, who? Katie S. Yeah, I have no clue. This is his third season. He was undrafted.
Tate Ratledge.
You would take Ratledge?
I think
because you think Mahogany will start though, right?
Yeah. So if there's an opening, I would go with the receiver. We'll figure out who it is. Or if there's not an opening on the O-line, let's go receiver. But if you think there's a spot for Ratledge at that other guard spot, I would go with him.
They have Graham Glasnow, who's 32 years old, a third-round pick in 2016 as their left guard, right? Yeah, probably Ratledge. You're right. Yep, we'll go Tate Ratledge right here. Okay, Washington. Let's see. They took Josh Connerly, running back here.
Running back here, very in play. Edge, you and I don't really love the rest of that edge room. Same with the corner room, unless you want to go with a Robert Longerbeam at 61.
The edge room for me just feels so
one-dimensional.
Yeah. Umali Mellon, Josiah Stewart, Kyle Kennard just feel one-dimensional. Jack Sawyer is tough. Geez, Jack Sawyer would have been good for the Lions. Dan Campbell.
Too early, I think.
Yeah,
him and Tyleek Williams, you imagine? Jared Ivey is more like, just plays big.
I think they could take one of these Umali Mellons or Josiah Stewart at the back half just because of the pass rushing upside.
I think they could as well. I certainly think that's in play. And we kind of juggled with like, what are you trying to replace? We did Scadaboo here last time, I think.
Yeah.
You could go with a Dylan Sampson here. I think Dylan Sampson actually could slot in next to both Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler, complement both of them, pick up that speed element up the middle that they both lack.
Yeah.
So I would go with either Dylan Sampson or I like Josiah Stewart best, but Princely Umanmielen, certainly you could talk me into that.
Yeah, let's do Dylan Sampson because we did Scadaboo last time. So let's flip it and go Sampson. Gives them a little more speed and burst. Buffalo again on the clock here. What we said we'd go back to
Let's go edge this time.
Yeah, get one of those elite edge rushers, which that's D-line. For you, it would be Josiah Stewart. For me, it would be Umanli Mellon, but I don't think that we can go wrong with either of them here.
No. I was trying to think of a stupid reason if they have a player from Michigan or Ole Miss and just go with that. Let's see. Should we go alphabetical order and take Stewart? No.
Wow, you're just trying to find a way to get your guy.
That's exactly what I did. I was like, what's a tiebreaker I can go
let's go reverse alphabetical order then. You ever done them backwards?
I'm gonna say we go Umanmielen just to punish myself for that stupid reason. And he's higher on the PFF big board, so we'll give Trevor Sikkema a tiebreaker in our mock here. He'll be the third man breaking the tie for the Buffalo Bills.
There you go, Trevor.
Umanmielen and Kevin Winston Jr. alongside Maxwell Hairston for the Bills. Chiefs got Josh Simmons. Do we go like Darius Alexander falls?
I was just going to say Darius Alexander. I think that makes sense for them.
Yeah, we did TJ Sanders last time, right?
Yeah.
So we'll do.
But Darius Alexander wasn't there. I forget where we took him to, but yeah, putting him next to Chris Jones would be a good compliment.
Let's do it.
Okay, Eagles here. Gosh, what more do they need? I mean, you could take a Jack Besh. I know they say that you need a wide receiver. I think Jack Besh gives you something that Devontae Smith and AJ Brown don't. You can look at interior offensive line to see what's here. Nothing I would want to take here.
Your point about Jack Besh, I kind of like, just because he's not that like downfield guy. He kind of can just clean it up, and
he's going to be a great run blocker.
Yeah, he helps out Saquon. He helps out Dallas Goedert as a blocker as well. Yeah.
I would take. I mean, they need corner, but I would take Besh here.
You're not drafting Jacob Parrish at 64. No, if we're drafting a Kansas State player in this spot, you and I both know damn well who that is. It would be DJ Giddens.
Yes, Besh or Royals. Besh probably.
Royals feels like what Devontae the media Smith would try to get them to do and get like a third flashy player that just isn't going to get the ball. Besh is fine if he doesn't get the ball, I think, because he can create so much away from it. Let's do Jack Besh. Should we? We'll run through half of it each once it loads.
They don't even give it to us. That's messed up. It gives us the one that's already happened. Come on, PFF.
If you hit full results on the top, I think you can get it.
Where? Oh,
full results right
there. Oh, yes. Then let's read through half of them. Let's go.
All right, so I'll start it off. We got Shadur Sanders at 33 to the Browns, Luther Burden at 34 to the Texans, Mike Green at 35 to the Titans, Will Johnson at 36 back to the Browns, Jaden Higgins at 37 to the Raiders, Donovan Ezeraku at 38 to your New England Patriots, Nick Scorton at 39 to the Bears, Landon Jackson at 40 to the Saints, Travion Henderson at 41 back to the Bears, Trey Amos at 42 to the Jets, Jonas Savanaia at 43 to the 49ers, Quinshon Judkins at 44 to the Cowboys, Xavier Watts at 45 to the Colts, Carson Schlesinger at 46 to the Rams, Azarie Thomas at 47 to the Cardinals, Savon Ravel Jr. at 48 to the Dolphins, Demetrius Knight Jr. at 49 to the Bengals, and Nicky Manwari at 51 to the Seahawks. I'll pass it off to you because I'm out of breath.
Caleb Johnson, the running back out of Iowa at 51 to the Broncos. Femi Oladejo, the edge out of UCLA to the Seahawks at pick 52. Pick 53, the Bucks take JT Tuimoloau, the edge out of Ohio State. 54, the Packers get Darren Porter, the corner out of Iowa State. Mason Taylor, 55 out of LSU, goes to the Chargers, the tight end. The Bills get more secondary help, take Kevin Winston Jr., the safety out of Penn State at 56. The Panthers finally get some defensive help for that worst defensive unit. Pick 57, they take Braden Swinson, the edge out of LSU. Jared Wilson helps protect CJ Stroud, the center out of Georgia at pick 58 for the Texans. Benjamin Morrison to your Baltimore Ravens, the corner out of Notre Dame at 59. Pick 60, the Lions take Tate Ratledge, the guard out of Georgia at pick 61. The Washington Commanders take Dylan Sampson, the running back out of Tennessee. Princely Umanli Mellon goes to Buffalo at pick 62, the edge rusher out of Ole Miss. Darius Alexander helps Chris Jones on the interior defensive line out of Toledo to the Chiefs at pick 63. And the Eagles wrap it up at pick 64 with Jack Besh, the do-it-all Mr. What is it? Reliable Jack Besh from TCU.
Oh, reliable. Well, there it is. The first round is in the books, and the second round is halfway in the books, potentially in the books. But we also gave you guys a first round review right there. So, we'll be back doing draft grades, but there's a little preview of the first round. So this will be an episode you could come back to if you hear us go through draft grades. You're like, I want to hear more about this pick. Here you guys have it. So first round in the books. What an amazing first round it was. Second round, we mocked it for you guys and reviewed that first round as well.
Yeah, take all these picks to Vegas because we ain't missing on them. We missed on a couple in the first. We ain't missing on the second.
Listen, I had 8 team-to-player matches out of 32. That's a good enough percentage for me. In my
I just realized I didn't do a final mock and post it. We did ours, and I went back and looked at that, and I would say we probably had 6 or 7 mocks.
I'll take that.
Combinations. I mean, obviously the top 5 were on, but then, we had a couple other ones that we hit on the head. I didn't do a final mock, which pisses me off because I always do that. But doing this podcast and doing the Patriots podcast, I did so many mock drafts for just the Patriots. I forgot to freaking put together a final. First round mock.
Me final mock, Sue final mock. Jason, I share a podcast.
I would never. Where'd you mock Tedero McMillan to? I would never take him that low.
I mocked Tedero McMillan. I mocked Tedero McMillan. I completely forget, actually. Oh, no, I mocked him at 10. I had the Jaguars trading back from 5 to 10 to get Tedero McMillan. So that's something you could have signed off on. I had Matthew Golden falling all the way to 23 to the Packers. Okay. Guess what?
That's fine.
That's what happened.
It wasn't pick 8. It wasn't pick 8 like Carolina.
No, I had the Pats.
I just remember every time I made that pick when I did the evens, you're like, I see what you're saying, but that's the worst defense in the league. And
that's exactly what I said after the pick really happened.
defense wins championships, but you know what sells in the NFL? Points, offense. And I'm a defensive guy, and I hear that all the time from the offensive people up, on the staff I coach with, and we always give each other crap. But they got a point, man. A lot of people want to watch 40-plus points be put up in the NFL. So
talk to David Pepper. He just wants to put butts in seats.
Yes.
So leave it to, hey, listen, I don't know if one of the most meddling owners in the NFL did it again, but Tedero McMillan, certainly a justifiable pick. I just thought different direction, perhaps on the table. We'll be back with you guys for draft grades. This was a completely spontaneous episode. I was like, I've already said we'll be back for draft grades because we didn't know we were doing this. But here we are wrapping up the first round, second round mock. But we'll give you guys draft grades. Some 26 content will be on the way. Perhaps a quick little fantasy football mini episode that we will inevitably drag out to at least 45 minutes like we usually do because we have too much fun talking to you guys about football, talking to each other. But yeah, if you don't have anything else to add, for Jace Campbell, brother of Will Campbell over at Pat's Drive, I'm Max Shostak, Max Starks temporarily, over at the Draft Geek. Make sure you're following for all that sort of draft content that you are missing in your life if you aren't following right now. And of course, if you're a Patriots fan, go follow Jace at Pat's Drive. But thank you guys so much for listening. We hope you enjoy Friday and Saturday of the NFL draft. We will see you guys next time. Peace.